Okay, another question for the audience. How many of you use your mobile devices now more than your PCs? Let me see a show of hands. What, about half, right? I mean, that's kind of an accurate reflection of society, too. We may all be living in a brave new mobile world. At least that's what we're being told. Thanks to constant connectivity and the rollout of 4G LTE networks, mobile devices are poised to help us control everything we own at any time, any place. Well, we've assembled a panel today to examine where we are and where we're headed in the world of mobility. So please give a round of applause to our 5 gentlemen on our panel now. Let me ask them to come out right now. Come on out, gentlemen. Take a seat here. You can pull this over. You gentlemen also have the distinction of being our biggest panel so far this week. So let's do a couple of introductions, make sure everybody knows everybody. Right next to me, and I don't want to butcher any names here, is Mr. Reza Ghalamkarizadeh, right? All right, yeah. He is with myTaxi. He's the CSO with myTaxi. Next to him is Palo Luka, the CTO with ESET. Palo, good to see you. And next to him is Mr. Alexander Saul, the Director of Customer Relations. Can I say that?
No,
or Firmengeschäft, Business Relations?
Enterprise.
Enterprise, okay. I've got the German word here. I did a fast translation with Vodafone. Alexander, good to have you with us. And next to him, we've got Dr. Martin Enderle, with the CEO with Scout24. And last but not least, we've got Dr. Gunter, Küchler, the man from Lufthansa Systems. Gentlemen, thank you all for taking the time to talk with us today. Mobility is a big issue right now for everybody. Some people could say it's make or break for your companies. What does it mean to your companies right now when we talk about mobility? Reza, I'll start with you. Reza, by the way, with myTaxi, I was telling him earlier, for people who don't have a car, living in Berlin, for example, like myself, myTaxi has changed our lives. So you guys are doing a great job.
Thank you very much. Yeah, what we noticed at myTaxi is we started off with a really easy idea that we wanted to make the ordering process of a taxi much more easy, and we developed that. We also want to increasingly improve the taxi ride, and in the end we also do the payment processing behind it, thereby creating value for consumers and the taxi driver. But what we noticed is that we have like a single solution, and there are a lot of single solutions that are being developed, and I think we're more and more thinking about how to integrate these solutions to make it even more convenient for users to use our service.
Okay, so more mobility is the way for you guys. Palo, what do you have to say?
Well, we are a security company, so you know, if you ask people these days, should I be worried? Should I run, you know, security software on my cell phone? They're probably going to say no. Why would I? And it makes sense because the problem is not as big as it is on other platforms where it's sort of a must to run security software. But we feel like with the growth of the amount of mobile devices, their popularity, they're going to become a problem sooner or later because, you know, cybercrime is about money after all, and if this market is juicy for cyber criminals, they're going to focus on it. And frankly, there is nothing you can't do on the smartphone that you couldn't do on a normal PC when it comes to, you know, making money from cybercrime. In fact, there are even more things you can do. You can access money more directly. So for us, we're getting ready to this at this point.
Okay, we're going to talk a little bit more later too about security and mobility. Alexander, what do you have to say?
Well, mobility actually is part of my business.
Yeah,
you know,
of course.
And well, but this industry really has a real mind shift in the last couple of years, and especially I would say in the last 2 years. because we're coming from a, let's say, more or less connectivity-driven business, also in the enterprise market, to more and more solution business. And for example, the colleagues from myTaxi, that's a solution actually. Unfortunately, not with our network, but that's a different question. Maybe we can discuss later on. But but you can see also in our booth, for example, here in Hanover, we have solution with Drive Now actually, which is a cooperation with BMW and Sixt. And this is a typical solution which is built into the car. We deliver the connectivity and the logical and the software behind this integration work, actually. Okay. So this is a big trend in our industry.
Okay. Dr. Enderle, the marketplace guy.
Yeah, you know, we are around like 15 years now in that space. Yeah, so we are really a kind of a dinosaur, and of course heavily PC based. Yeah, in the first 10 years, and it's also a very rich content service, AutoScout or ImmoScout. Yeah, so we come from this PC area. But years ago, you know, when we saw the mobile trend coming, we thought about, okay, what will happen, you know? And there were, of course, strong opinions within our group to say, hey, that's not for us, you know, because it's heavy content, you know, it's a very small screen, you know, it's very cumbersome, you know. We think, you know, that will not happen in our space. But we decided to anyway do it, yeah, because we also saw the opportunity to have more customer touch points, yeah, because the customer, you know, at a car dealer, checking the price on a Sunday walk, looking around for new real estate, he likes new houses, new flats, you know, we saw these kind of use cases, and that was basically at the end, you know, the right idea, because what we see now is that 30 to 40% of all our traffic comes through mobile devices. It's very difficult, of course, to talk about mobile. We talk about internet-connected devices. Yeah, because mobile is...
That's all devices there, right?
That's all devices, exactly. And we also see that, you know, it's not digital or mobile or whatever, it's internet-connected devices. They can be in a car, they can be in a plane, they can be on TV, whatever, you know. Everything is an internet-connected device. And then the question is, what can you do with that? And we think a lot about apps, specialized apps, you know, that's kind of a subset of our services like Baufinanzierung, mortgage financing, yeah, and having those apps on all screens interconnected, yeah, and that's that we see really a very strong trend, and it was the right idea 5-6 years ago, you know, to invest into that area.
Gary Kovac from Mozilla was here a couple of days ago, and he was talking about the world of apps, and that many apps are still built for browsers. And he says, you know, what we're doing is we forget to send eyeglasses to the users, because when they are on their mobile devices and they try to go, you know, online, the site is too small. Yeah. I mean, are you guys thinking, you know, of getting rid of the eyeglasses for the consumer?
You know, I think the most important thing we did to make those apps successful was to reduce the content and to make the buttons and everything bigger. Yeah, it seems to be very easy, you know, to do that, but it's not, because the people are from the PC, coming from the PC world. They were really kind of used to do more content, more things, more links, you know, in order to enrich the service. And then you had to say, no, you reduce to the max now. And so we had some very clever people, you know, who did this user experience thing right. Yeah, and so you have a great usability, and the great usability of the app is the, I think, most important factor for getting the downloads and getting the usage. That's really important.
It's more challenging to reduce something than provide all the information.
Exactly.
So.
Yeah.
Dr. Küchler, you are the man of mobility here with Lufthansa Systems.
Yes, of course, Lufthansa stands for mobility. Yeah? We are moving more than 100 million people every year around the world, and hundreds of millions of tons of goods. But Lufthansa Systems, we stand for the mobility of data, of information, of business processes that we provide, of course, for 100 million passengers and more, for we are dealing also with nearly every airline in the world. And of course, it's a challenge for us to bring mobility into every aircraft. And we all know there is something, it's not sufficient enough, and we are hard working with a lot of partners to make this available within the next years, let's say. And we can just discuss a little bit where the challenges are. what we're going to do. But we will see it in the long-haul flights already. You can use everything already on the long-haul flights, not with the bandwidth we would like to see there, but that depends on the satellite technologies today and NNN. So.
When is that going to change? Because we all talk about taking our mobile phones and putting them on flight mode when we do fly. Yeah. Are we going to one day see a day where flight mode is also a dinosaur, where we're connected even when we're in the air?
Well, this is not a question. If I could answer you this question, I would, of course, make that free available today.
Well, make it free.
There are about 25 different regulators in the world and government institutes who are against that. And the problem in airline business is that once you have some restriction, to find somebody who takes the risk to take it away again. Same is true for liquids in your bag. The same is true for many other things.
Is it a security issue? I mean, for our audience here, we don't want to talk about it too much at length, but what is the biggest barrier to providing total mobility in the air?
It's regulatories.
And that's from the nation state.
I can tell you, what we are doing now, we are just bringing wireless devices into the cabin for in-flight entertainment. And we have to undergo hundreds of tests before we are allowed to do so in an aircraft. With every new aircraft, we have to redo all these tests. Mm-hmm. With every new type of aircraft, we have to do it again. With every new airline, we have to do it again.
But has there been at any time, any sort of security issue with this? I doubt personally.
Not that I know of, not that I know about. But as I said, it's stated in some hundreds of books of regulation and tests you have to pass. Therefore, I wouldn't bet on this. But I think there will be technology available how you can use your mobile much better in the aircraft. We will have a server there. We'll have access points there, and through these access points you can then.
And is that a business possibility where a company like Lufthansa could maybe team up with a company like Vodafone? To provide that service? So, is that a possible business model?
Yes. What's in our hands is communication within the aircraft, and again on the ground, and between the cockpit and the ground, or between the cabin and the ground, or even between the aircraft and the ground. So we have also communication of an engine with the ground. Yeah, but the problem still is how to connect 10,000 aircrafts over Europe to the ground. There are basically two technology types. There's a satellite. What we have today available is Ku-band satellites, not very small banded or small banded connectivity. You see this in international flights already. We will see Ka-band. This is next technology. That's a broadband technology from satellites next year or in 2014 in Europe. And there is a possibility also, if you are on a continent, that you have a ground-to-aircraft communication with a different technology. There you have, of course, the problem, again, regulations within telecommunication and frequencies in Europe, with 25 or so telecom agencies in Europe. So it's not a question of technology. Technology is there. It's more a question of how to get regulations and everything straight.
Palo, what would you say? The issue of security was brought up here. Is this constant mobility and constant connectivity that we want now, is it opening the door to all types of security risks?
I think it is. And the reason I think so is, there are many types of attacks, and there are some which we can't even think of. These days, somebody will come with something new pretty soon, I'm sure. And mobile devices have been around for what, 10, 15 years, and connectivity and internet, it's all very new. And cars, they were introduced maybe 100, 120 years ago, and they were introduced slowly, and over time, people learned how to use them. Societies were able to bring up some rules so that people don't get killed on the road. And and these days, you know, it's fairly safe on the road if you're in Europe or States, or you know, there are some parts of the world where I didn't really feel that safe, but I guess it's coming there as well.
You've never been driving in India before, have you?
I haven't.
Yeah, yeah, that's
well,
that's
let's not go into details.
Yeah.
But you know, internet, mobility, and all these new technologies, they're really fresh, and people they are very happy to use them, but they often don't realize the security risks that are associated. They haven't learned the code, so to say. And sometimes it's really innocent stuff, like things we don't realize that, you know, might be dangerous, or they might be giving out too much information. I'll give you an example. Yeah. You know, let's say company A, you know, high executive has friends in other companies. And you know, they're all connected on Facebook, and you know, all those people see that he's traveling to some place really often, and they start wondering, you know, why would he go there so often recently? What's there of interest? And they start searching, and they find that there is some company that, you know, this company A might be interested in. And you know, 1 or 2 weeks later, the press release comes out, and really, company A is buying a company from this town, and this actually happened. And you know, it's maybe not a big deal, but we give away a lot of information about ourselves, and you know, these pieces of information, they don't really have any value on their own, but if you connect all of this information together, it actually might have a lot of value, and it's something that you know, can be stolen, sold, exploited, etc., etc. So I think it's probably going to take people a couple of generations to learn how to behave online, and I think we need to speed up the process.
Yeah. I wanted to ask our audience too, talking about security, I'm going to just touch briefly with you gentlemen about security and credit card payments, but I wanted to ask the audience, since we are here in Germany, just by a show of hands, how many people pay online with credit cards here? Almost everybody, right? Yeah, it's interesting because there was a report by the European Central Bank saying that in 2011, only 17% of financial transactions in Germany take place with a credit card. Which I mean, I know I live in Berlin, and many times you go shopping and they don't take credit cards. You go to the United States and people look at you like you're a Martian if you want to pay with cash, right? So you have these different pay cultures. Let me ask you, gentlemen, are there risks? I mean, have you calculated in the risks of payment with credit cards, for example?
Just looking at myTaxi, we developed actually the first true cashless and cardless payment system, where you save your credit card data or PayPal account with myTaxi, but it's never stored within the app itself or on the phone. It's stored with our acquirer, Wirecard, so it's safe on their service there. So we found a service where we so far, in touch wood, didn't have a single piece of fraud, no recharge, and because it's always linked also with the transaction with the driver itself. So there's, at least for now, we're very confident with the solution we've got.
How are you guys checking the security integrity of you know, the data warehouse where this credit card information is stored?
Well, there are bank regulations to Wirecard that make sure that the data is safe. I mean, that the BaFin is checking on that.
The BaFin is checking. All right, so it's the regulators.
Yeah,
doctor.
It's a PCI standard you have to fulfill, and the best solution is not to use a credit card number at all in your application, but keep it secret somewhere. Okay. And we are certified data center, so I think this is a good solution.
Okay, Alexander, what did you want to say?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not totally agree with you, because you're talking about security and let's say the mentality of about dealing with this issue, and it's different between the consumer market and the enterprise market. And maybe in the consumer world, it's not so, let's say, spread out, not so common, not so that the people really think about what they're doing with the smartphones. But on the enterprise area, that's actually where I have my business, we really face a lot of discussion with our customers how they can make their solutions and the usage of the smartphones, especially on Android and iOS, more secure. And there's actually some hardware producers like BlackBerry. That's their proposition. Actually, they have a complete secure device management and all this stuff. So that's a big issue in my business.
And from both sides, you want to make sure you get your money.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. But I don't think it's always just a question of technology and how safe something is. It's also about the user. And I think,
yeah, of course.
If you look at the of the number of applications and functionalities around. In the past, you had an overflow of information. Now you have an overflow of functionality. You can change the radiator at home, the temperature from your mobile device. You can do all that. So how do you keep track of what you can do? What's your overview? And are you aware of what's happening in between?
Yep.
So I think the challenge is really to reduce the complexity for the user. And one example is, for example, that you integrate Car2Go and myTaxi, providing a more integrated approach to mobility and making life more easy for the consumer.
You're absolutely right, of course. It's also maybe at least 50% the question, what is the user doing with it? But in the end of the day, for example, we invented a complete secure SIM card solution, which has a crypt of 80, what is it? You have so many possibilities of crypting it. It's a number of 10 to the power of 80, so it's so many, it's an unbelievable high number, so it's practically not crackable so far, actually.
Can Vodafone say that there have been no data leaks?
Yeah.
I mean, so you guys have a white vest on.
You feel
so
challenged.
far, so far. But we're challenged by a lot of these guys, I mean, that's fine. And actually, that's something we really appreciate in a way, as far as it's not successful.
I always smile when I hear something like complete protection or complete solution, because
it's
we
not
are
true,
a
is it?
security company, but we say that there is nothing such as 100% security. I think ultimately it's down to people. You can have very, very secure technologies, but they're used by people, and people are vulnerable. They can be cheated upon, they can be tricked very easily. In fact, a lot of attacks these days are involving so-called social engineering, which is basically tricking somebody into doing something that the attacker wants, and that the one who is attacked does not really want if they knew. You mentioned the enterprise segment is very careful about security, and that's true. There are platforms which are very popular, for instance, BlackBerry, because of the amount of control the enterprise has over the device, and that's very cool. On the other hand, there is this trend which is sort of worrying me. It's BYOD, bring your own device. Which is a result of a consumer push into the enterprise. So people in the enterprises, they're sort of bored with those secure devices like BlackBerries. They want iPhones, they want Androids, they want all these cool new consumer devices which are not so secure. And this is becoming, in my opinion, quite a big problem these days. The enterprise cannot actually resist this big push, and they're allowing these devices, and they call it BYOD.
I think this is a question, but we cannot force people not to use it. I think this is not the solution. For example, we are allowing now people bringing their own devices to watch their videos in the aircraft. Yeah, so you bring your own tablet, PC, or your iPad or whatever, and we stream videos. And the studios, of course, are very keen that these movies are not stored on anybody's device after watching it. So it's not only credit cards; it's data from other enterprises. it's the security in the aircraft itself, but we cannot we are living in a world where everybody is bringing his own device, and there will be much more devices in the future.
Is there a plan also, we all fly, you know, they always tell us to turn off our electronic devices when we're going to land.
During start and landing, you have to do this until 1,000 feet. This is worldwide standard.
Okay.
We never will change that, but above 1,000 feet you can.
But I mean, just a question, someone backstage had asked me to ask you this. Is there a security risk if I have my iPhone, if I'm listening to my iPhone, if I'm listening to music as we're landing? Is that a problem for the aircraft?
In a modern aircraft, I would say it's not a problem because we're testing that with our wireless devices now. But if you're an old 737 built in 1972, there might be influence in the cockpit that you really can see. And it's not you alone. It's maybe 250 people at the same time because we are late already. And guess what everybody is doing when approaching the aircraft and you would allow mobile devices. So everybody would use his phone. And then the total signal would be able to have some influence possibly in the cockpit. And it's a plain and a very simple philosophy. If there is a chance that there might be an influence, it's not allowed, period.
Or it's time to buy new airplanes.
Sure.
Right?
And I think it's in your own interest.
1972 is a long time for an airplane.
You just need to make sure you're the only one who is listening to music. And all that stuff.
Well, I mean, I see that a lot flying, and I see people trying to trick the stewardesses. The stewardess come by and say, you know, please turn it off. And people, you know, they do this. They go, okay. And the stewardess walks by and they put it right back in the ear. And I think, well, I mean, is the plane going to crash now?
By now we have worldwide no incident that can be, where the reason would be a mobile device.
Okay.
Yeah, we don't have it. But this is not a question. We have to make sure that 10 to the minus 9 or 10 to the minus 12, there is no incident. We don't want to have an incident.
We don't.
Yes?
I agree with you, Doctor.
And to explain afterwards that there was something, we have to make sure that there is no incident.
It never happens. I agree. Yeah, before we go on, any questions from the audience? Anyone want to ask the gentleman? We're all touched by what these gentlemen do for a living, so if you do have a question, please let us know. We've got our friends here with the microphone. Oh, there's a gentleman here in the front.
Da alle Teilnehmer Deutsch sprechen, ich glaube, ich darf auch Deutsch die Frage stellen. Meine Frage eher für Vodafone, für Sie. Haben Sie da die Aktivitäten von Telekom mit diesen 2,5 Millionen WLAN-Hotspots sicherlich mitbekommen?
Das nicht verstanden, akustisch nicht.
Haben Sie die 2,5 Millionen Hotspots von Telekom mitbekommen?
Was meinen Sie mit 2,5 Millionen Hotspots? Meinen Sie die Überlegung der Telekom, dass Sie sagen, Sie möchten sozusagen eine seamless Daten-User-Experience?
Das haben Sie am Montag angemeldet, dass es jetzt mit Phone.com ausgerollt wird. Das habe ich gemeint.
Ja, das
und meine Frage wäre gewesen, weil wir reden ja hier über Mobile, und meine Frage wäre gewesen, was halten Sie über ein Alternativ-Mobile, welcher ja auch funktioniert über die lokalen Netzwerke?
Shall I answer in English or German? What do you prefer?
If you want to in English, just for our live stream viewers, that would be better.
Yeah, okay. Well, actually, you have to distinguish between the consumer market and the enterprise market. And the point is that in the enterprise market, the customer is very keen on a seamless experience. And as far as we know, and my personal experience actually is, if you're moving and switching in the mode, or while you're driving in a tube, for example, or whatever, between a mobile a network connection to a VLAN connection, you always have a sort of not a seamless experience. And because of this, we actually think from the Vodafone side that it probably will not be our core business, to be honest.
Since we're talking about networks, let me ask all of you, because you gentlemen are all dependent on the integrity of networks. Without networks, you can't do your job.
Exactly.
So talk a little bit about that, how important the networks are and the challenges or the promises of networks going forward?
A lot of people just look at apps and think of the online world, but more and more apps are connected to the real world, and that's really also what makes our app quite attractive. Nowadays, we need the connection from the driver app to our servers and back to the passenger app, and that's obviously the basis for the service. So reliability of the service becomes very important, and we found that a normally quite price-sensitive market, such as the taxi drivers, are willing to pay for a quality service, also a premium, if that means that they get more tours. And that's what you mentioned earlier, we're using telecom for at the moment. We have a good tariff that we offer combined with tours, and that shows how important it becomes. Without service, or if it's not seamless, we have problem connecting drivers and passengers.
Okay. Dr. Enderle, what would you say about that?
I think it's for Scout24, it's not more of a problem than for anybody else. Of course, we need reliable networks, for sure. But on top of that, in general, I think it's really the seamless experience that it's important. And you mentioned it with the Wi-Fi hotspots. And I think that telecom will work on getting a seamless experience, because otherwise you have to switch between those networks. But if you have this kind of seamless thing, I think then it could be interesting, for consumers. Enterprises, I think maybe it's a different game. But for consumers,
also a security issue actually with the VLAN and enterprise.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, right. In enterprise, definitely that's an issue. But generally speaking, I think this seamless experience that you don't have to think. I still have to think about, where am I? Is it a roaming? Should I switch to Wi-Fi? When I switch to Wi-Fi, maybe I have to put in my credit card details. And this kind of things. They should go away. Yeah, you have your device, and you get
you want to go to
connection.
Wi-Fi. Like if you go to Starbucks, you want to get free Wi-Fi, because then you're not having to pay for data usage, right? But then if I walk outside and I have LTE, I know that my provider is going to charge me up the wazoo if I'm downloading a lot of data. Alexander.
Well, I don't agree. I don't agree. Yes, of course, the business model of the network operators does matter if it's Deutsche Telekom or Vodafone or whatever. Is to earn money with data, of course, but
yeah, but it's changing. Though. I mean, come on, it's changing. I know a lot of people who have some of those original contracts where they had unlimited data on their mobile phone. They'll never cancel that contract. They're running around, downloading movies, whatever, paying nothing for it. I go and get a new iPhone. And then it's like, well, Herr Goff, 6 Euro im Monat und das ist ein super Preis.
Yeah,
and then
well, actually, all the providers, and I don't want to make it too much commercial of Vodafone right now, but actually, one of our propositions, of course, is the international footprint, and what we offer is an international roaming tariff where you can where you have unlimited roaming for. Well, I can't say the price now, but we will invent it into the market in a couple of weeks. So it is let's say it is a worry-free user experience. That's actually what we aim for, and we as Vodafone, we have an advantage in this issue. If you're talking about international business,
okay.
and additional to that, you're talking about LTE and saying, well, you're sitting in the Starbucks with WLAN. LTE has a very good indoor coverage. It's a technical issue because the frequency is a lower frequency, so they have physically physically possible that you have better indoor coverage. And LTE will be the future technology for high bandwidth indoor and outdoor. And I guess, let's talk about 2, 3, 4 years in the future. I guess maybe the WLAN doesn't have really a necessity.
Is that the future? Is there going to come a time when in my home, I will no longer need my own Wi-Fi? Will there be a network that covers everything?
Yeah, I don't.
And I won't have to pay.
I personally don't. I don't have a fixed net line at home anymore. I use an LTE hotspot, which actually is connected to my devices in my home via VLAN.
Yeah, but you get super prices because you work for Vodafone.
I admit I get a good price, but
share the wealth, Alexander.
And we will, I tell you, because that's the mass market and that's our future model. I mean, that will be the future.
Okay.
But actually, think about two things. First of all, there was rumors, that you want to buy Kabel Deutschland.
Yes.
But this is cable, definitely, right? And what's the reason for that? It's still, also from a technical point of view, if you want to bring a lot of data in a very densely populated area, cable, very close to the consumer is still, the best way and has an advantage over mobile technologies. Maybe, that will change in 10 or 20 years, but it will definitely not change within the next 10 years. And therefore, I think, also the Wi-Fi idea of Deutsche Telekom is a very clever idea, because at the end, it's about if data consumption rises as it has risen in the last years, it's very difficult. You can also fill up all LTE networks. It's no problem. So if everybody would, watch TV on LTE, it's not possible. So therefore, it's important to think about how can you offload this traffic into other channels, and then maybe have a seamless experience, for a decent and attractive price, because most of the traffic goes through Wi-Fi, which is much cheaper than building LTE for that traffic. Yeah, that's the main thinking behind.
Go ahead.
I think the main point here really is reliability of service, and I think if the reliability increases along with customer expectations, people will provide new services that are actually critical, or that use the service as a critical service. For example, if my medication right now depends on a transaction or on a communication which is not 100% reliable, then I wouldn't be able to do it. But if that improves, you will see more services, because I don't mind waiting for a taxi 2 minutes or not seeing it on my screen or being interrupted on my phone. But with more critical services, I would worry a lot more, and I think greater reliability will allow Vodafone and the telecoms to charge a premium for a premium reliable service, and thereby opening the door for a whole range of new services.
I think we even have to make sure that we have 24/7, every minute connectivity around the world. So this is even harder. We have to have wide area networks, we have to have local area networks, we have Wi-Fi, we have GSM or whatever, and everything has to work 24/7. No connectivity, no flight. And I think this is true for many business today.
Yeah, but why can't we bring that, Doctor? Why can't we bring that to the customers? Or we had the panel discussion yesterday. Someone was complaining about when he flies from Europe to the U.S.
Yes.
He lands in the U.S. His mobile phone works, but he can't get any data because he has to have a different plan there. I mean, the companies or the service providers are not thinking globally.
Yes.
Or if you do want a global plan, again, you're going to have to go into poverty to pay for it.
I think there's a big difference between business life and your private life. In business, I have to make sure that our employees, that the people at the airport, they have connectivity, broadband connectivity to their application, to the data, to everything. So as soon as I leave the airport, I have a problem. I have to pay roaming charges, or I have no communication at all, and I think this is really a challenge for people who are really traveling. They are leaving their offices. In the near future, we will have also in business life people working all around the world, from at home, from anywhere. We have to connect them very secure to our business applications, but they also want to have their private connectivity on the same mobile device maybe. And this is where we have to go.
Okay. Question in the audience?
Darf ich noch ergänzen, meine Frage?
Yeah, and also we got a gentleman here with his hand up and a gentleman there. So we got three. Have I forgotten anyone? Okay, so we've got, a gentleman there. So we got four. Okay, let's start with you.
Eine kurze Ergänzung nur zu Herrn Saul nochmal. Also ich meine, wir leben in einer intelligenten Gesellschaft. Wir haben das auch schon mal geredet, dass auf 5 Meter etwas zu übertragen, das kostet viel weniger Energie. Das heißt, warum verschwenden wir doch das 100-fache an Energie bei LTE, wenn wir das über WLAN viel einfacher, schneller und billiger lösen können? Das ist das eine. Der zweite, die Strahlungsbelastung. ist doch das Tausendfache. Ich verstehe das nicht, wieso nimmt man endlich mal diese wunderschöne WLAN als Möglichkeit an, vor allem an Point of Sale zum Beispiel, wo der Kunde auf die Kommunikation mit seinem Verkäufer angewiesen ist, um informiert, navigiert, kommuniziert zu werden. Und ich meine, darüber rede ich nur ganz wenig, weil das gefällt Ihnen natürlich nicht besonders, wenn ich da Ihr LTE kannibalisiere, dass ich über WLAN auch noch belohnen kann. Aber ich sage nochmal, warum verschwenden wir das 100- und 1000-fache Energie? Das ist nur mal eine wichtige Frage. Okay. Übrigens, die Seamless ist auch schon längst gelöst.
Okay.
Yeah, well, you're not right when you're saying VLAN is a alternative in any ways to LTE, because when you're talking about rural areas, for example, you need to have a high bandwidth over there as well, and you can only reach it with LTE. And adding to your point, actually, yes, you're right. If you're coming to the cities, let's say, to cover all the bandwidth with only LTE could be a problem in the future. It's not now, but maybe in the future. But so there is a component, when you could say, of VLAN usability as well. But we say LTE is the technically better and with higher bandwidth solution. And the big advantage is you can use it in rural areas, which and in a spread out way, what is not possible with WLAN.
Okay. Question here. Yeah.
Hello. I read your abstract, and you uncautiously used the expression "brave new world." To me, brave new world means an increased amount of surveillance by official organizations, and so far I haven't heard anything about that, and I really can't imagine that an increase of mobile traffic will increase surveillance. Is it true? Or I'm thinking in a global context now. I think of Arab Revolution, China, and other countries. Will that change anything?
Good question, yeah. Who wants to?
Yeah, well, maybe let me add on this as well. I mean, there are researches which which prove actually that with for example, a 10% increase of mobile usage penetration in India, to take this example, it is a direct relation to a 2 to 3% growth of the Bruttoinlandsprodukt. GDP, sorry, yeah, to the GDP. So this is actually something which the mobile industry, it's not a Vodafone issue, it's a mobile industry which brings the mobile industry to the states and to the economies worldwide.
Okay, there was another question here, yeah.
Yeah, hello. Nowadays, everybody talks about the services or the mobility services they offer, but from a different point of view. You see organizations which got an overflow of mobility services, and I'm asking you, where should an organization start? What should they implement first? Because no of the organizations can implement all mobility services at once.
Yeah, that's also a good question. Who wants to take that one? Dr. Enderle.
I think that's a very important question, because we also had over the last years the challenge, to see, okay, what do we do? Do we do iPhone, Android, Windows, which app?
Are you overstretching?
Yeah, you could even overstretch it. That's an important question. But I think there are many ways now to get also on mobile devices to the customer. There are also browser solutions, of course, which are very easy to implement. And I also have the feeling that mobile development of apps becomes much cheaper and faster. Yeah. So it becomes more easy to do that if you want it. But I think you should maybe think about, does the mobile app really bring value, and how much value to the customer? There is value in having it right at hand and having it now. Yeah? Like myTaxi, I think you cannot think about it without thinking about a mobile device. But there are definitely other services which you don't necessarily need as an app. Maybe there is a browser solution is sufficient. And that's a decision, every business should really thoroughly think about it. Yeah? But think about also that it's very easy to develop it and to test it. Yeah? So don't think then too much. Maybe you test it, and if you see it doesn't work, then throw it.
Dr. Küchler, very briefly, and then a final question. Go ahead, very briefly.
Yeah. So our experience is we are dealing with hundreds of airlines, and their employees are always somewhere in the world. And we really expected to run on business applications on mobile devices, and it didn't come. It did not come. So it's very disappointing how big the market in private life is and how small it is really still in business life. So there is, it didn't come. There's no request for it.
Final question here, very brief, because we've got like a minute left.
I have a question for Lufthansa. It's maybe very simple, but it's unclear for me. As you said, you restrict to use mobile devices when the plane is about 1,000 feet on the ground. Yeah. And I don't understand why you restrict these mobile devices on board when on the ground there are 1,000 times more powerful base stations for mobile, thousands of Wi-Fi hotspots that uses the same device, the same signals.
We had that question earlier.
It's quite easy. It's restriction by EASA and FAA.
Yeah, regulated.
Thank you.
Okay, all right. Gentlemen, we're going to have to wrap it up. We have one question from the Twitter wall I wanted to ask is for Dr. Küchler. It says, we are online everywhere except in trains and planes.
Yes.
What's going to be the first place to change that, the train or the plane? That's an easy question for you, Doctor.
It's an easy question. No, it's not that easy. We do it in planes, but we do it also in trains. We will do it in buses. We do it on cruise ships already. So,
cruise ships, yes. If they don't sink.
So, yes, that they don't sink. So it will be that the problem is always how do we get into the train, how do you get into the plane? So, and that I always said, satellite or ground to aircraft, it has to be developed. It will come in the next 3 years.
All right, gentlemen, we could talk longer, but we've run out of time. Thank you very much. Let's give our 5 gentlemen a warm round of applause. Thank you, gentlemen, very much. Thank you. Thank you. And we love myTaxi. All right, gentlemen, thank you. Thank you very much. Alan, you were a good sport. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you. Thank you. I'll see you in the air. Okay.